Hello, I'm your host, Mike Gelb, and this is the Consumer VC, where we discuss the intersection of venture capital and consumer innovation. This show is brought to you by Propeller Industries, the leading strategic finance and accounting partner for venture stage companies. If you're enjoying the show, please subscribe on YouTube or whichever platform that you're listening on. And if you want the full experience, sign up to the newsletter at theconsumervc.com. I share a weekly recap of all the consumer deals that are happening, and you'll be the first to know when a new episode drops. All content episodes are for informational and entertainment purposes only and is not investment advice. Our guest today is YuChiang Cheng, or as he also goes by, YC. YC is a CEO of Hero Bread. Hero Bread produces delicious real bread with benefits. 0 grams of net carbs, 0 grams of sugar, and it's only 45 calories per slice. Previously, he founded World Golf Tour, which was acquired by Topgolf. And after the acquisition, he became the president of Topgolf Media. We discuss his approach to founding companies and also the differences of working with tech companies and CPG companies, why he shifted from being a founder to joining companies early stage, his overall philosophy of businesses he loves and why he loves them, and why he joined Zero Bread. Also, their transition from selling into Subway restaurants to retail. Without further ado, here's YC. YC, thanks so much for joining me here today. And I know we've been thinking about doing this for a while, and I'm so happy we found the time, especially in the new year. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. Welcome in New Year and long-time listener, so happy to be here.
Gosh, well, thanks so much. Thanks so much for listening. Wanted to What I found really interesting about your career, especially when we've been talking, is you have a lot of experience building media businesses, software businesses, sports technology businesses, and now also with Hero Bread, CPG. What's the through line when it comes to what type of company you want to be a part of, you want to build?
Yeah, I think at the very core of it is that I'm just a really curious person who wants to learn a lot. So, I want to understand how it's to sit in different seats and how things work and different parts of industries and things like that. But so beyond learning, it's just I love interacting with consumers and I love solving their problems and I love delighting them with solutions. And all those businesses are directly interacting with consumers in those different positions, and I just continue to learn there and love how it's changed in the last 30 some years.
And for you, when does it make sense? Because I know that you are obviously a serial entrepreneur. You started many businesses. You've also joined businesses as well. When does it make sense in your mind when you look back through your career thus far, when it actually makes sense to actually start your own company versus joining a company that you're already maybe a user or particularly fond of what they're building?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of entrepreneurs fall in love with the inception. And I think there's a lot of mythology around that. And, I would love to be the person who comes up with the idea and all that stuff. But um, what I've learned over time is that there's a lot of great ideas. And what's really lacking is sort of the alignment of execution, the team, and capital. And so I've more transitioned away from, dreaming up things myself and looking around the world and seeing what's available, what is undermanaged, underfunded. Um, because basically, what I've learned at least is every great idea and every problem I'm trying to solve, someone's already trying to do it already. And they just may not have the right team, execution, or capital. And if it's a great founder, I'd love to help them.
So is that kind of a transition from earlier in your career up until now? In that earlier in your career, you were much more about ideating and building from the ground up, and now it's more so, okay, I'm gonna let someone else, or because you say there's so many different ideas out there, and obviously great ideas. I'm gonna let someone else kind of uh build it from that standpoint and be the founder. I want to come in and actually help execute and scale that business.
Yeah, yeah, and I love going even earlier the better, you know? So a lot of the opportunities, that I've done and continue to nurture now is sometimes just the founder by themselves. There's no one else. They haven't done anything really yet except for their own. But, you know, they need capital, they need a team, you know, they need to, take it to the next sort of grade. So, um yeah, I just love partnering with people and, you know, something that I've grown a huge passion around other than just this consumer experience in building products is I went through a lot of hard, difficult lessons starting the companies I have and being parts of teams. And I just really felt like founders had a asymmetrical amount of knowledge compared to the investors, and that I wish that investors or someone held my hand as an entrepreneur and like decoded a bunch of stuff and shared a bunch of information. I felt like I could have been much better if I had that kind of guidance. And so now I'm just really passionate about bridging that gap of information and knowledge and execution between what are investors and what are people who see hundreds of thousands of companies all the time versus what a founder and that energy and that passion and that execution is, and how do you marry the two together and try to help the founder be as successful as possible.
What was the opportunity you saw back in the day building World Golf Tour when it started?
Yeah. Well, I've been very lucky in having the ability to join a lot of startups and great mentors and people who are running companies. And previously to World Golf Tour, I was part of WagerWorks, where uh, that company and one of its founders, Andrew Pascal, they were solving a huge problem of, you know, how do you bring cash gaming legally, you know, around the world. And in that business, you know, we primarily operated out of the UK, where it was legal and regulated. Um, and we built these experiences that were very, very compelling, like slot games, online poker, even some sports betting modules and things like that with the biggest brands in the UK, like Virgin Games and B Sky B and Paddy Power and all those folks. And what I learned there, and what I also learned at UBET previously to that, was just compelling content. Always kind of wins because you're providing something for the consumer. And I feel that same way about food. I feel that same way about digital experiences. It's just you're making compelling content that people really want and bringing value to the consumer. And what I learned at WagerWorks was that, you know, massively multiplayer games that allowed people to play digitally online with other people around the world or connect like a father and son, you know, across the country, that these were very compelling experiences and could not be easily replicated. And I felt like they're evergreening, that you're always going to want to kind of play with people that you can't physically have time to do. So after trying to go IPO in the UK with WagerWorks and then ultimately getting bought by IGT in that process, um, I wanted to go start my own business and take that theory that, hey, if I can create an online compelling experience with massively multiplayers connecting people, then we can win. And you know, I looked around, and sports content was kind of like the golden egg at the time, and I still feel like sports is a really big consumer proposition. And I felt like Electronic Arts was asleep at the wheel with Tiger Woods franchise, and they weren't going on mobile and they weren't going massively multiplayer. So there was a window of opportunity there to create online experience that was legal and could be in the US and didn't have all the regulatory friction that WagerWorks had.
Were you a golf fan?
I love golf. I would say that I'm mostly somebody who just loves a good walk outside and play with friends. But yeah, I find the game very, very challenging. So it takes a lot of time. So
Same here, same here, same here. What is hard about building a sports content business or sports gaming business?
yeah, I think gaming in itself is really hard, and I know you've interviewed some people in it. I love it because I like to think, and I'm totally biased, is that it's kind of like the best minds. It's like the most innovative, most critical thinkers because you have to be multidisciplined. And it's a highly competitive place because everyone wants to be involved in it. It's fun. It tends to draw a lot of really good talent. And the user acquisition and go to market and everything is very hard and very difficult. And this was a time where Facebook was just starting, the Apple App Store was just starting, so the whole performance marketing, CAC to LTV, um, had some of the best minds working on it, and so that's the challenge. There is that you're just competing against a lot of money and a lot of really smart people, um, and the technology is not simple. Um, so it's a great rubric of problems to solve, which gets me excited.
Do you find that competing against the legacy in gaming was more difficult than, for example, competing against legacy CPG companies?
I do. I think that both technology and gaming, the legacy incumbents, are open more to change. Though I wouldn't say a lot more. They just are slightly more. um, but yet, I think they have access to talent that I think traditional CPG does not right now, but I see that changing pretty rapidly, actually. So I think um, my theory is that technology is slowly becoming more and more commoditized through AI. Like at the end of the day, some AI program is going to be able to write code better than any human can. So where human intellectual capital will go to and flow towards is things that will help humans more, and that only humans can do. And health and wellness and food and CPG, I think, are at the heart of that transition, and that more and more brain power will move towards that direction.
So do you think on the gaming side, due to AI, do you think that we're going to see a lot smaller teams be able to produce a lot more output when it comes to innovative games?
Yeah, we're already seeing that. And you see that in general tech. Google and Amazon, Facebook. You see them all decreasing their headcount and number of engineers and project managers and everything because they are the canary in the coal mine about automating computer assisting of work that has to be done.
On the AI, I know that we're taking a slight detour, but on the AI side, when it comes to gaming, do you do you see a world where due to AI and you're not actually going to have to then presumably or theoretically hire as many folks, and also typically quite expensive salaries, right? With software engineer, if you don't have to actually hire as many of those types of folks, which I think a lot of the investment dollars goes towards. Do you think that we're going to see a plethora of gaming companies that maybe aren't venture backed or don't need to be venture backed to actually come into the world and be successful?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think so. I think due to the tools, platforms, and AI is included in those tools. And by the way, the tools have been around for a long time. They've everything from how transformative Unity as a platform has been to Turbine and all the engines. All of that has enabled smaller and smaller teams to be able to execute great titles. I do believe that the creativity though in the vision and what evokes emotion and loyalty within a game, that still needs human guidance, and that won't be solved for a long time.
And do you think that gaming companies in the world of AI, do you think that they need their own LLM or their own or their own databases, or do you think that 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 they don't or don't need to be maybe as capital intensive?
Yeah, I think that we're still in the first inning, right? So um, you need more specialized uh, prompting and databases and that data to work against. Um, but I think I don't know. I think it's just a matter of time before there's sort of like a unifying uh, theory there. But yes.
So World Golf Tour, talk to me a little bit about how it was acquired by Top Golf. What was the opportunity that you saw that it made sense to um uh when it makes sense to actually go through with the acquisition? Did you approach Top Golf? Did Golf approach you? How did it all come to pass?
Yeah, I think that we built a huge community and huge game. Over 14 million players worldwide, and we expanded into other genres like baseball. So we were trying and test other games, and I think we just hit a point where we said the user acquisition is just too expensive to expand much more. And we would be much better served being part of a large organization where we can leverage resources. So um, we took the success and we tried to find people who we would have the best fit with to be able to leverage user acquisition. Quite frankly, Top Golf really came to us. Their chairman Eric Anderson. Um, I'm gonna paraphrase this, but basically came and said, "Hey, we're the largest, physical number of golf players, and you're the largest digital number of golf players. There's got to be something we can do here together." And I think between the lines, Eric and Top Golf, really had strong aspirations to be much more than just a physical venue business. And they're true believers in digital innovation and building a brand and connecting with all of their fans and patrons, more than just at the venue itself. And so that was really the mandate of the acquisition is buy WGT, build the digital assets, and place YC in a position where he can drive innovation and position this company in a way where we're more than just serving burgers, fries, and hitting golf balls. And I think we largely accomplished that.
That's awesome. I mean, yeah, makes total sense on the acquisition front in terms of the synergies from you all having 14 million players worldwide digitally, and then of course Top Golf having been the largest, I guess, real golf kind of organization in an entertainment setting. Not that normal golf isn't entertaining on its own, but I'm terrible at golf, I'll be honest with you, but I love Top Golf. Every time I go, I just think it's great. I'm the worst player on hitting, but I think it's so cool. But how how did that come to pass post acquisition? And now you're part of Top Golf. How did that mending happen between the digital world and utilizing the 14 million players that you all had, and as well as Top Golf's obviously their real estate, their all the various locations and their whole business. How did the two kind of combine together?
Yeah. Well, I think it was a really sticky and could have been potentially a very difficult situation, right? You have myself and my team come in, placed in a position of large influence. Um, and there's an established team there that is really about food and beverage and logistics of a physical business. um, and I think the success story there, and maybe Callaway and Topgolf can take note of how they proceed in the future, was really the alignment of the whole executive team on what makes Top Golf great and what does winning look like. And that is about driving a really valuable consumer experience that merges digital and physical together, and the whole team was bought in on that. So the other presidents of Top Golf at the time who were in charge of the physical business really bought into that vision that we will be worth more and we will drive better consumer value if we embrace innovation and technology. And so, I was placed in a position where I had a large amount of influence over the entire customer experience at Topgolf, everything from the menu to the marketing and a lot of the physical assets, the incorporation of the technology. So, like, you can play Angry Birds there, and they just continued with releasing other IP games recently, um, and building the digital experience and really. credit to all the people at Topgolf, like putting up with me and my ideas, and about like doing reservations and using a digital app to book it instead, and modernizing the event planning experience and stuff like that. Like all of that, including improving the menu and the food and making it really something that all people could enjoy, and merging in celebrities and influencers and all that stuff. Like those were all new muscles that Topgolf had to embrace with the change, and we did it for 5 years and created a lot of value.
So, in terms of just merging the digital and physical together, is it creating digital experiences as well on Topgolf's on in Topgolf's venues? Was that one of the major pushes?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So the content itself, which we call the game and the food and beverage, so is modernizing and innovating those two together, and creating digital games that were more than just hit a golf ball and see how far it goes, right? Actually gamifying it, playing Angry Birds, busting things using augmented reality. So you hit a golf ball and you can look on the screen, and the screen will show the ball breaking glass or whatever. Um, but it was also largely around um, making Topgolf understandable, and telling the story of connecting people together, and building a media asset around it so that you could watch Topgolf shows and you could see celebrities and how they interact with Topgolf, and additionally, expanding and putting music venues and events into Topgolf, and then bringing Topgolf into sports stadiums. So you could play Topgolf Crush and hit golf balls off the top of AT&T Park or whatever. So it really was kind of 360, merging digital and physical together to give what the consumer really wants, which is entertainment, fun, bringing generations together.
And having these unique experiences, almost like pop-up experiences, it seems, that kind of that also drives people to Top Golf, and also builds the brand for Top Golf with these experiences. That's really cool. You've been an entrepreneur, and obviously you then went to a large organization with Top Golf. You've also worked at Zwift, which I'm also, certainly, I don't own a Zwift, but certainly a fan from the sidelines. I think it's super super neat, and I love bike riding. What have you learned about innovation, being the entrepreneur, doing it yourself, building from the ground up independently, or with a small team that grows into a larger team, versus entrepreneurship and actually doing it, in large organizations? How do you think about innovation in those two different environments?
Yeah, I think at the core of it, it's about the people. And the people, if you create the right environment and give it the right nurturing space, resources, you can nurture innovation. And the beauty is, on your own with a startup, there's already rules and a framework in place to allow you the freedom to do what you need to do and innovate and empower the teams. I think that's very hard in certain organizations in trying to do the entrepreneurship, um, unless you have a lot of buy-in from the main powers that be within a large organization who say, "Hey, no, we're going to carve out right these funds, the structure, the team, and give them time, right, and space to be empowered to do things." And this is the budget, and we're not going to take it away. And align on what the goals are. And that's what I've learned is like same thing as a startup, same thing within a big company. If you can align on what the goals are, right? If it's just say, hey, we need to cannibalize ourselves, we need to show 10-20% growth year over year within this category that's been stagnant. And if you can agree on that and hold true to it, and not be afraid, right? It takes a ton of courage, right? If you're the CEO of a $1 billion company and you have a innovative skunk works going on that's chewing up 50 million, 100 million in capital a year, it's just like investing in VC or startups. It's up and down, right? You're gonna have good times and bad times, and if you're gonna knee jerk reaction when it looks really bad, then you're gonna stifle the innovation. So I think success to innovate within a big company is to establish the framework, have the alignment on what the goals are, and to protect it at all costs. I love what Eric taught me on Top Golf. He said, "Hey, it's not really a risk, and you should have courage if you're not betting more than 10% of the business. So that's how you can innovate. It's like you're not afraid, and you're willing to stick your guns to it to know that you have to innovate, or else someone else will, and they're going to eat your lunch.
This episode is brought to you by Propeller Industries. If you run a high growth business and you're focused on profitability, extending your runway, and improving your operational efficiency, you probably need a finance and accounting whiz that will grow with you. Well, instead of hiring someone full time, what would be cost effective is working with Propeller Industries. Propeller Industries is a leading strategic finance and accounting partner for venture stage companies and has partnered with over 1,000 startups and high growth businesses across consumer products, consumer tech, and enterprise. Some of the brands that they've worked with are Liquid Death, Olipop, Hims, Farmer's Dog, Away, MoviePass, and Giphy. Propeller also provides specialized support for fundraising and M&A with transaction advisory services. Propeller's TA team of former investment bankers and investors can step in on more of a project basis when pursuing full-scale financing and M&A. There's a link to Propeller Industries in the show notes if you want to learn more information. After this experience, and obviously after working at Swift, you decided to become CMO of a bread company, Hero Bread. And what was that transition like, going from content, software, digital businesses to a physical product in terms of selling bread? What attracted you at the opportunity of Hero Bread?
Yeah, I think the seeds were really planted with Topgolf, where I fell in love with physical stuff and the experience of it and how it influences the consumer, how tangible the results are. The food and menu at Topgolf is a huge part of it, and I'm personally, I would say I'm a foodie. I love eating. I love experiencing new things that way. Um, and uh, I think the second thread there is that, after Top Golf, I really felt like, wow, the big opportunity here, and where the value is really on the investing side. And I can toil away as an entrepreneur, but I really want to learn the investing side more. And quite frankly, I felt like a lot of times companies didn't reach their full potential because of the investor and board makeup and construction. And so, I said, hey, why don't I go that side a bit and learn? And so, even with Zwift, I was helping the founder and the investors there. I really ramped up my angel investing. Ultimately joined Charlie D'Amelio and her family's office at 444 Capital. Also helped some other offices like that, including Tandem Capital and a few others. So I really just wanted to see if I could help create things on the other side, on the investor side. And so one of the main theories was that health and wellness was a big trend. And so, we were doing a lot of investing in sort of that and personalization, and fell upon Hero Bread. We were brought it by an investor, a co-partner that we've worked with a lot. And they said, you got to just try this product. It's going to change bread forever. And I said, oh, I've heard all these better for you things before. They whatever, there's like Olipop and soda and all this stuff. And to be very honest, most of the time I feel like all the products under deliver, over promise. And there's no way I would really eat it unless, even if it like could save my life, I'm not sure I'd eat some of these products because they just weren't tasty and delicious. So I took a bite of the Hero Bread and I was blown away. I was like, this is like one of the first better for you products that I could honestly say is a one for one replacement. And you just have to be willing to stomach a little bit more price. And so I convinced the family and the fund, and I put my own money in, and we participated in a round of funding there. And to win the deal, I pitched what I honestly say, which is like, we're more than just money. We will help you with your business. We will be muscle. And the founder took it very seriously and said, come on as our interim CMO. We just ended our relationship with Subway, and we need a reboot. And so I of course had to hold to my word and say, "Yep, I will roll up my sleeves. I'll help you as the CMO." Um, and as things progressed, they just asked me more and more to get involved, and now I'm the CEO of the business, and hand in hand with the founder, and we've really built an amazing journey the last 2 years.
That's awesome. And also, totally am with you in terms of sometimes when I try better for you products, I'm sometimes I find myself more consuming them just because the nutritional facts are great or are better for you as opposed to the actual taste and actually loving, the actual taste of the product itself. Not for every product, but uh, for for quite a few. Totally see you there. So for Hero Bread from a platform, it first started off Subway. I know there's like a lot of reports about how that's a lot of kind of interest that a lot of even celebrities found out about Hero Bread. When the founder Cole called you and said, "Hey, we're pulling out of Subway. We need to also reboot." How did that come to pass?
Yeah, I think that, again, Hero is a product like business. It has an amazing product, so it can garner a lot of, celebrity investors. That's how they got Subway in the first place. Um, and so I think things were coming a little too easy for the founder, right? Money, distribution, things like that. And so there wasn't the discipline to how to run the business and how to operate it, and what is good money and what money should you take and all that stuff. And I think it really was a moment of self-realization from Cole, and plenty of urging from his investors and board that, hey, we need to level up the business here and do a pivot. And credit to Cole to really embrace that and want to change the business, and pivot from food service to controlling their own destiny with D2C first, and then use those facts to drive retail adoption. And so, again, we met through a common partner that Cole and I both had. We've done business with them before. They were minority investors in Hero. They brought me on and 44 Capital as an investor in Hero. Yeah, I guess the rest is kind of an ongoing story right now.
Well, why pivot from food service to D2C retail? Why did it make sense for the business? What's challenging about food service that it didn't make sense to look at that as the main go to market strategy?
Yeah, I think my guess is that it was largely a misalignment on what each partner was expecting from the other. I think that Subway expected to use Hero as a vehicle to help change the perception about their food. They were going through a lot of issues and PR about, is there even real bread, right? Like, what are the ingredients in their bread? And is this really healthy? And they had that whole scandal with Jared or whatever. So, like, um, they wanted Hero to drive that narrative. And I think that Hero didn't fully understand that expectation from Subway and the amount of capital it would take to do that. And Subway, I think, expected Hero to pay for a lot of that media and marketing. And then the margins also, are not the largest in food service. And being on the Topgolf side, I know I used to, arm wrestle my vendors all the time. So I think that was just a misalignment on that. And so, you know, Hero and us, we just decided that, yeah, we wanted to prove the product first with D2C, and that would be a more profitable way to do it.
So Hero felt that they were actually providing a lot more value to Subway because they were actually helping Subway with almost kind of a rebrand in terms of what their bread options were, or that if it's bread, and at the same time, which is great, but at the same time wasn't kind of giving you all thinking as well, since there's a lot of subways that you all would pay for the marketing promotion. You would and maybe not give you like a kickback when it comes to margins or anything like that in terms of how much.
Yeah, I wasn't part of the initiation or a lot of it, but yeah, I think I think Subway expected Hero to promote more and do more work for them, and it just wasn't affordable for Hero.
So how was that transition from going from food service to D2C retail? What was it still, because I've also seen bread that, for example, that might be high protein, 0 net carbs. They're only in the frozen section, for example, at grocery stores. It Was this a shelf? Were you able to do it shelf stable? I'd imagine there's a lot of complexities when it comes to that in D2C. But how overall, what was kind of like the plan in terms of launching on D2C?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of hard work. Amazing D2C team. It's led by this amazing lady by the name of Christina, and she just you know laced up her shoes and said, "Hey, we're launching DC," and did a lot of work on what are the right SKUs to sell there. The product team really stepped up and created products that the business thought it required. And part of that was, it's we bake it, we freeze it, and then we slack it out. So it is shelf stable for 10 to 14 days, and um, it's we just knew that if we could get product in people's mouths, and there's no better way than do it through D2C directly, then they would love it, and that's proven out true.
And how long were you only D2C before you expanded it into retail?
Yeah, I think we got very sort of lucky. I'm not sure is that the right term, but we're very fortunate in that the product is that good. So it only took about 6 months of D2C where it went from zero revenue to a lot. And we were able to take that data and also show that we launched, Amazon and went from zero to the number one selling couple SKUs on Amazon within 6 months or so. Beating out Dave's Killer Bread and all the incumbents on Amazon. And we took that data to the retailers and showed them and said, "Hey, I know you've been pitched a lot of better for you breads before, but we're not the same. And this is the data that to prove that our taste and our functionals is not something you've seen in this industry before, and that you should carry us in your store." And to their credit, Sprouts and Publix were our first two because we didn't know if it would be conventional or natural, which one we'd be more successful at. And they both said yes, which was shocking to us. Um, and also Giant Eagle, Market District. Those were like our main three, and to this day, we've proven ourselves right, and we've helped them sell a lot of bread. And we get notes from them even today to say thank you so much for convincing us to take your product. Like you're just helping us print money. Is literally what one of them said.
Wow, that's awesome. What I've seen is really hard to do when it comes to any better for you product that's priced more expensive, and obviously there's a lot of reasons why they have to be more expensive because the ingredient choices are a lot more high quality typically than than big CPG and the incumbents. But crossing that chasm, going from natural to conventional, has been usually pretty tough for CPG. For new CPG companies that do have a better for you angle or are indeed better for you. Was it helpful that you actually weren't conventional? You actually started in conventional and natural at the same time. Was that helpful when it came to think about what your pricing is, and already be able to think, okay, this can actually be, we actually have already maybe crossed that chasm if both if both retail chains are successful?
Yeah, I think it really helps from a pricing and investor standpoint because you take the risk off the table, right? Like your pricing architectures are already made so that you're profitable at conventional. You don't have to have that risk. You don't have the risk of will conventional take you at all or mass. Um, but I wouldn't say that was our strategy or why we're successful because um, I think that it's kind of a mistake, I guess, or a misunderstanding of why it's hard for something to move from natural to conventional. I've invested in a bunch of companies now, and I've seen this kind of over again, and it's not priced, by the way. It's priced because it's hard to convince the buyer, but not for the consumer. It's not price. And like I think a lot of people mistake that. And my understanding in the last couple of years at least is that if you deliver your promise and you actually have a real functional benefit and you actually really taste good, there's no problem going from conventional or natural to conventional. And they're willing to pay. Every consumer is willing to pay if you actually deliver the promise, and they're willing to pay a little bit more because they know they're getting something of value.
So if I understand correctly, it's more so in your mind, if you have a great product, convincing the actual retailer on the conventional side to actually carry the product itself, even if you have great, let's say, Whole Foods data or you've really strong Sprouts data, getting the retailer, getting a, let's say, a Walmart or a Target or in mass, or even a Publix, or a Giant, getting one of them to actually agree, that is actually the challenge typically.
Yeah, yeah. If you have a good product, right? Because they're like, no way, there is no way we can sell $8 bread at whatever conventional retailer. Like that's crazy, right? And then we've shown it over and over again. We get it on a shelf. We say, take a risk with us. Here's a bunch of data. You're not really taking a risk. Take us off if you want in 6 months. If we're not competing, whatever, no harm, no foul. Like we'll take that risk with you. But like once you get it on the shelf, the consumers speak for themselves, and they're like, "Yep, I'm willing to pay for this. Yep, this is a great product." And so I think products who have a hard time going from natural to conventional or mass is that for the same price or close to the same price, consumers expect a lot more because they're paying more than they're used to at conventional. So, at natural, they're like, sure, I'll pay $8 for a bread. I've been doing it for years now. Conventional, they're like, I've only been paying $5 and now you want me to pay 8. I expect a lot more. And if you don't deliver really, and you don't have the great taste, and you don't have the good experience and the actual delivery of the functional benefits, then that person's never going to buy you again, and they're going to tell everybody not to buy you again because they expected more because they had to step up in what they were paying.
When you have a product that's quite a bit more expensive, maybe to the other, let's say conventional breads out there, how how do you drive velocity and actually introduce your brand into retail to make sure that you're kind of hitting the mark, that you're staying on shelf, that the retailer wants you back more? I mean, obviously, it seems like velocities are doing extremely well in the accounts you're in, but when you initially got into those accounts, how did you actually get that um, uh, convince customers to actually take a chance with Hero?
It's interesting because this is again back to the DNA of Hero. It comes down to the product. We are customer obsessed. We want to make the best product we can. And so it's getting that initial trial, and the beauty of it is, and the success we've had is that through D2C, a lot of people have tried the product already. And a lot of people are already asking for the product at retailers that were not being carried. So having that initial kind of priming the pump to get trial going and drive velocity, we've set up our business in a way where we're already getting that. So people are actually asking for us. So like that helps drive the velocity of the flywheel of someone knows who we are, they ask for us, we're finally there, they eat it, or they've already eaten it on D2C, they tell all their friends, and it continues to drive the velocity at that retailer. Now we do prime the pump even more. We make sure we support the product at the doors. We do sampling, we do run influencer campaigns. We help the retailer and be in their publication or wherever. But to be very honest with you, our velocities are not driven by us spending a lot on marketing or driving the demand. We put almost all our money into the product.
Now, in terms of Hero Bread on the operation side, is it are you all vertically integrated, or do you also use or do you use a co-manufacturing system?
Yeah, we co-manufacture almost all our products. Yeah, our goal is to just make sure that we can R&D and own the IP around the products themselves, and then you know rely on a distributed network to produce it.
So you started off as a CMO too, the interim CEO, and now you're the CEO. How did that as well happen? Why did Hero decide to make that change?
I think it's kind of like what my old boss used to tell me is like, when you show competence, like more and more responsibility just starts flowing your way. So you should be careful where you show competence. I think that yeah, just I call it scope creep. And the team just kept sort of looking more and more towards me. Maybe I just talked too much. So um, yeah, I think it was just sort of a natural transition where they knew that they needed stronger and more experienced leadership. And proximity is half the battle. And in terms of sort of pairing founders with quote unquote professional CEOs, which is weird for me to talk about since I never feel like that's me. I feel like I'm still a founder, but that dance is really, really tricky. And so to have someone that the founder trusts, who's shown value, and has, an approach, which I like to pride myself on, is it's just a very open, transparent, candid approach, where people feel safe to do what they need to and say what they need to. And um, I think that pairing is rare, and so I think they all recognized that and said, hey, this is a way to not destabilize the business but yet take us to this next level that we need to with somebody um, who can do it. So
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. YC, I'm gonna ask you. We're gonna end on a quick lightning round, if that's all right. I'll ask you a question or comment, and you say the first thing that comes to mind. Is that okay with you?
yeah, happy to.
Sweet. What's the biggest consumer trend to watch out this year?
Yeah, I think is that people want to, take control of their own lives, and they're realizing that there's no institution or no safety net really looking out for them, and they need to do it themselves. And it's personalization of their health and their life and their finances and all those things. So anything that helps empower consumers to make a better life for themselves, I think, is a huge trend that's going to happen.
What's the most underrated consumer brand right now, apart from Hero and apart from any brand that you've invested in?
Yeah, I'm super bullish on Sky and Soul. I think they're really changing the way that sunscreen and sun protection is happening. It's a really big problem. I think that the sunscreen that was available, largely petroleum based, was really not healthy for you. And I think their approach to it is just amazing. And I use it myself, and I think they have a bright future.
What is your favorite consumer product innovation in the last 5 years?
Oh, I think it's definitely remote and personalized consumer, medical delivery. So brands like Hims and Hers and Roman, and this ability to have a consumer say, "Hey, I want to solve this problem, and I want to go direct to a doctor, and I want that doctor to help me immediately and procure this consumer product." um, Even the way that like continuous glucose monitors are, and how there's innovation that you can go and get those now without having to go through a long, lengthy process. I think that telemedical self personalization is amazing, and I think is changing people's lives.
Totally, totally. Um, within venture and also just consumer products, within venture, what's the biggest thing you've changed your mind about?
I think being on both sides of the table now, I felt like before, hey, it's a VC, they got a ton of money, they can do whatever they want. They're so they know everything. They've been through it all before. Um, but what I've learned over time is that they're actually very limited in what they can and can't do, and by the structure of the VC funds and their LPs, what they have to deliver and show in terms of results. Um, so they just don't have as much freedom as I thought they did.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. What do you think you're best at, and what do you think you have most to learn?
I think just the ability to learn and process a lot of conflicting information. And you're never gonna get a clear read one way or the other. So to be able to synthesize opposing views and data in a way to find some gems, um, and then to be able to then work with a really different people and different skill sets and bit different backgrounds. And I'm Chinese American, so I'm already hyphenated. I'm used to having to, bridge gaps between different cultures and things, and then to be able to align that together between founders and investors, and get them pointed in the right direction and all running at the same goal so that we can all win. I think it's just going through that cycle is what I've learned to be pretty good at.
Love that. Love that. But final question for you. What's one book that's inspired you personally and one book that's inspired you professionally?
I love this question when you ask them. I'm always on pins and needles listening to other people. Um, but professionally, I think the one that I refer to a lot is Empowered by Marty Kagan. It's about teams and how you form them, and how you align people. So, how do you create innovation and empowered teams by aligning on what outcome you're trying to achieve and give them the freedom to do that and manage it. And he really talked about that in terms of product teams, but I found a lot of success applying that to the whole company. And I think it's just a great read on what I would call the next sort of modern way of managing. And it's especially really helpful in this remote hybrid work environment, because you're more about looking at outcomes and aligning a team than about micromanaging and other sort of anti patterns. Um, and personally, but also affects my work a lot, is I love the book by Lisa Feldman Barrett, which is called How Emotions Are Made. It talks about the secret life of the brain, how we work. So it really helped me move more and more and embrace meditation and create space in my own brain, and make me more stable, I would say, a more considered, better listener. But it also helps understand our consumers better about why do they react and have emotions towards our brands and products the way they do.
Well, I see. I don't think we've had any other past guests mention these two books, and I don't think I've read them. I'm really excited. I will definitely be checking them out. But so original. This is awesome. Thanks so much for contributing with these books. They both sound terrific, and thank you as well, YC, for your time. This has been so much fun.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Really, really love it. It's an honor. So love this discussion.
Oh no, it's an honor having you, YC. Thank you so much, and also and congrats on all your success. This is great. And there you have it. It was such a pleasure having YC on. YC, thanks so much for coming on the show. If you're enjoying this podcast, I highly recommend checking out the newsletter at theconsumervc.com. The link is also located in the show notes. Thanks for listening, and thanks for Propeller Industries for sponsoring.